Good morning, a good Tavach. Today's Sunday, Baruch Hashem. It's a wonderful new week. Today we're learning Perek Vav of Masechet Shabbos, and here we go. Today's shiur is sponsored Lilei Nishmas, Aaron Nachum and Simcha Cohen, Yeshua Mordechai ben Shepsel, Bracha Sarah B'Shmuel Leib, B'Nar Moshe ben Yosef, Ben Neshama Salchav Aliyah. It's also sponsored the Refuah Shlema, Ad Sar Bas Leah, Chana Pesel Bas Yenta, Yisrael ben Rachel Leah, and Rachel Bas Pesel Zelda. May they have a full shlema so shar Chali Yisrael. And as a schush for Victor Aaron ben Gittel Masha for him and his ganze Mishpacha Shifra Bracha V'Atzlacha. Okay, here we go. Last week, on Friday, we were talking about how an animal, what can and cannot be put onto an animal on Shabbos. And today, we're going to talk about humans. Let's start with the women. Don't worry, we're going to get to men as well. We're going to start with the women. Bameh Isha Yotza, this is Perek Vav Mishnah Aleph. Bameh Isha Yotza, Bameh Ena Yotza. So, what regarding Shabbos? What may a woman wear outside? What may she not wear outside? Basically, asking the question: which items are considered either jewelry or clothing, which are mutter to wear on Shabbos outside, or which things are considered burdensome or considered malacha and would be ushered to wear in the public domain on Shabbos outside your home. So here we go. Lo seitze isha, lo b'chute tzemer, lo b'chute pishtim, lo b'tzuas shvirosha. A woman may not go outside with strings of wool, strings of linen, or straps on her head. You know, they used to braid these things into their hair for decoration. Lo sitbo b'hem ad shetarfin. And this is because she cannot go to the mikveh. She cannot wear those things into the mikveh. And we're afraid that if she's wearing these on Shabbos and she's going to the mikveh, then she's going to have to loosen these items and remove them from her hair, and that would be a isser of carrying them in a shusarabah, because they have to be removed. Therefore, the Chacham asked women to wear these items outside on Shabbos. A little bit totefes, a little bit sambutim, but bisman she'enan tefurin. And a woman may not go outside with a headband or with head bangles that are, if they're not sewn to her hat. A bangle is basically a colorful ribbon or gold and silver decorations that that hung down from the headband down to her cheeks. You can look it up on Google probably. I should have done that for the shiur, but I didn't. I apologize. Below the Kabul Rishus Harabim, she may not go into a public domain with a forehead pad. A forehead pad that basically covered the woman's forehead because that was used for decoration. Below Be'ir Shalzah, below Be'katalat, below Be'nazamim. She may not go outside of the city of gold, a choker, or nose rings. These are other adornments. Like a tiara is the city of gold on top of her head, and then you have a choker that goes around the neck to make your neck look skinny, and then like a nose rings. Earrings were not answered by the Chachamim because they're not easily removed. Which I'm not sure that applies nowadays, but all these things they cannot wear outside Shabbos. And a ring on her finger that has no stamp for sealing letters. And nor can she bring out a needle that has no hole for threading. So, right. So So a regular ring, which is not a signet ring, all these things we are worried that she's going to wear them outside, and then her friends are going to want to see it, so she's going to take it off and show it to them, and that's a problem on Shabbos. You can't carry them in a Shus Rabbah. The signet ring we're going to talk about in Mishnah Gimel. So, the Im Yatzas, if she went outside wearing any of these items on Shabbos, she is not chayav to bring a korban chatas, because wearing these things is technically mutter d'oraisa, but they're only also d'rabanan, and therefore she would not be chayav a chatas. In current times, according to Tosfos, that in current times, when items of jewelry are quite common, that women are more unlikely to take them off to show others. Therefore, modern day poskim do not answer women from wearing jewelry on Shabbos. So back in the day, a piece of jewelry was very rare, as people were kind of poor, and therefore it actually saw someone wearing like a nice piece of jewelry. They don't want to see it be a big commotion. But nowadays, when a lot of people have jewelry and they all wear things, it's not so common for women to take things off to show them to their friends. You can just look at them on Instagram the whole week. You have to do on Shabbos. That was a joke. Move on. Okay, Mishnah Beis. Now turning toward the men. It's not just women picking on here, pick on the men too. Lo Yitzie ha'ish b'sandal hamesumar. A man may not go outside wearing nailed sandals. Back in the day, there was an issue where a bunch of people, where like many people were hiding in the cave from the enemies, and they're all wearing these type of sandals. And when they heard noises from above, they all panicked, fearing that they were discovered, and they all ran to escape. So in the stampede that followed, many were killed because of the nails in their sandals. So to prevent future tragedies of this caliber, the Chachamim answered wearing these sandals. So the question is, well, then these sandals should be answered the entire week, not just on Shabbos. And the answer to that is that since this Maisa happened on Shabbos, the Chachamim answered wearing these sandals only on Shabbos and Yom Tov, because that's when the tzibur got together in like larger groups, whereas during the week everyone's busy and they're not getting together so often. So therefore, these sandals were answered on Shabbos. And if you're wearing one sandal, then if you do not have a wound on your foot, then that's also to wear on Shabbos. So someone who has like a broken leg and he has that funky boot, or he's walking around with crutches, that's not going to be an issue because people are going to know why he's wearing that funny boot, and they're not going to make fun of him because he has his injured leg. That's fine. But if we just stop the guy is being funny, he's wearing like one shoe instead of two, then that is also to do on Shabbos. A little bit tefillin, and you cannot wear tefillin on Shabbos. Since tefillin is not, since Shabbos is not as man for tefillin, then it's going to be considered like a burden. And we're concerned that if he's wearing tefillin, he's going to take them off to go to the bathroom, and that would be a problem with carrying them in the Shus Rabbah. So there's no tefillin on Shabbos. A little bit kamiyah bisman she'ena min hamumcha. If he's wearing an amulet that was not made by an expert, a kamiyah is like has a bunch of shamos in it, and if it's done correctly, it helps a sick person, from his ailments. But that's only if it was done by an expert. If it was done by an amateur, it probably has like no effect to it, and therefore you should not be wearing it on Shabbos. What's an expert? someone who already did this 3 times and um, and healed 3 people because of it. So he's now considered to be an expert, and that would be fine. A little bit cereal, a little bit casta, a little bit magafine. Or nor can you wear a coat of armor, a helmet, or iron leg plates. These are items that are all worn in battle. Um, it, so we're not concerned that he might remove them, but people might suspect that he's going off to battle, which is usher on Shabbos, except in the cases of emergency. Therefore, the Chachamim, because of Maris Ayin, they ushered wearing these items on Shabbos. But if he went outside wearing any of these items on Shabbos, he's not chayav chatas because, as again, all these things are not issued the rights, so they're only answered the rabbanon. The rights, so these are all fine. Okay, Mishnah Gimel. Lo say isha b'machar hanakubah. A woman may not go outside on Shabbos wearing a sewing needle that has a hole for threading, but that's not considered jewelry. Okay. However, if even if she's wearing the needle pinned to her clothing, she may not go out with it on Shabbos, because the rice is considered to be a burden, and therefore that would be a problem even for a sewing needle. Nor can she wear a signet ring that has a stamp for sealing letters, because that no one wears such things as jewelry. When Haman wore one to sign decrees, but we weren't concerned about him because he wasn't even Jewish. But anyways, below the kulyar, or a circular band around her head. It's also a decorative item. It's not considered jewelry because most women did not go outside wearing it. A little bit kovelis, a little bit sluchas. Shepalyata, nor with a spice container or a bottle of perfume hanging from her neck. The Mishnah. We continue. If she went out in the Shus Rabbah wearing any of these things on Shabbos, she is chayiv ichatas. This is according to Remeir. The Chachamim omrim, Chachamim potrim bekovelas with sluchas shapayata. The Chachamim say that she is pater from her derisive liability if she went out in the Shus Harabim with a spice container or a bottle of myrrh, which is a perfume, hanging from her neck. She's pater because the Chachamim held that the women would wear these things to conceal her body odor. Then they are considered as jewelry, just like the amulet that was being worn for healing. So she is not allowed to wear them only because of the Durabanan concern that she might remove them to show her friend and carry them in a public domain. But since they're not biblically, since they're not the Raisa, that then a lady who wore them is part of having to bring a chatas. Okay. Mishnah Daled. Lo, back to the guys. Lo Yitzie ha'ish, lo b'sayich, lo b'keshes, lo b'taris, lo b'olev, lo b'romach. A man may not go outside on Shabbos wearing a sword, a bow, a shield, a club, or a spear. Being yatsa, chayiv chatas. If he did go out wearing these in Rishus Harabim on Shabbos, he is chayiv a chatas korban. Why? Right? Because even if he does not, because these are not considered as jewelry or clothes, rather they are considered to be burdens. And even if you did not carry them in your hands, but you wear them on the belt, you are chai, because that's a normal way of carrying them. You would put certain things on. You would put the spear or the club into your belt. You wouldn't always hold it in your hand until you needed it. Rav Lezer says, Tafshitin Halo, he um, he says that they are considered to be jewelry for a man, and therefore he's not liable for going out with them. According to Rav Lezer. The Chachamim say that, who said that if you, for the Chachamim who said that he is chayiv, Einan ela gnai. These things are nothing but a disgrace for a man. Why? Shneimar, as the pasuk says in Tehillim Mem Hey, v'chitzu charvasam v'itim v'chanuroseyim v'mizmiros v'mazmeros lo yisagoy al goy cheru lo yivadu od mochav. The pasuk says, the pasuk in Yeshaya, not a pasuk in Tehillim, but pasuk in Yeshaya Perek Beis, that they shall beat their swords into spades and their spears into shears, and one nation will not lift up a sword against another nation, and they will learn no more war. So this pasuk teaches that weapons are not desirable items, and they cannot be considered jewelry. Therefore, if a man wears them in a shusarabim on Shabbos, he is chayiv. Mishnah continues, Biris Tahora, a garter that the ladies wear in order to hold up their stockings is Tahor. Shabbos, and they may go out wearing that on Shabbos because it's considered an item of clothing. The Kalim Tameim, however, chains that are used to connect garters are Tamei. They become Tamei because they were there to prevent a young girl from taking large strides that would do damage to her basulim, and therefore they have a direct benefit by someone wearing them. So they can become tamei, and yotzim on Shabbos, and they may not go out wearing them on Shabbos because they might remove them to show it to her friend. Therefore, she's going to carry them in a public domain, and that would be a problem on Shabbos. Mishnah Hey, Yotza Isha, back to the women. Yotza Isha b'chutei seir, ben mishalo, ben mishal charata, ben mishal behema. The women may go outside into a shusarabim with strings braided into her hair that are made out of detached hairs. Doesn't matter, regardless of whether the hairs are from her own hair, her friend's hair, or an animal's hair. She may go outside into Sarabim with a headband or head bangles if they are sewn to her hat. To show them to her friends, she had to take off the entire hat, and since a woman would never uncover her hair in public, she's not going to take off her hat. She may go out into a courtyard with a forehead pad or a wig, but she may also go out with a cloth in her ear to absorb its discharge, or a lining in her sandal to protect her foot, or with, and you can also go out with a menstrual pad. Because of her nida. She may also go out with a peppercorn in her mouth to overcome bad breath. So with gargir malach, or a lump of salt in her mouth to cure her tooth disease. And anything else that she puts into her mouth for these reasons, provided that she does not put it into her mouth on Shabbos in the first place. However, even if it was already in her mouth before Shabbos began and then fell out on Shabbos, she may not put it back in. Shane Totevis Shane Shalzahav Rabbi Matir. Rabbi permits her to go out with a false tooth and with gold plating that's on a discolored tooth. Chachamim Osrim, the Chachamim answered these items. According to Rabbi, we're not concerned about someone removing a false tooth from one's mouth or the gold plating, because that blemish would then be exposed, and they have those false teeth to begin with, so as not to be an issue. But I mean, nowadays when like fake teeth are very implanted into the mouth, and you can't pull them out so easily, then that would probably not be a problem. But consult the local posting. I haven't heard anyone who has like dentures, or I mean that dentures maybe, but someone who did a root canal, they did the crown and the post and everything, and it's a fake tooth, then I never heard anyone pulling them out for Shabbos. Yeah. Okay. Mishnah Vav. Yotzim b'tzela shel hatzinis. A woman may go outside on Shabbos with a silver coin tied to a wound on the sole of her foot. Habanos katanas yotzos b'chutim b'afilu b'kismin sheboznehem. Young girls may go outside with the threads or even the slivers of wood that are kept in their pierced ears to prevent the holes from closing. Arvios yotzos reulos. Jewish women who live in Arab countries, they can go outside with most of their face wrapped in a veil, as the local Arab women do. And Medayos Prufus, and Jewish women who live in Madai, the Paris Madai, they also may go outside with the strap of one side of their cloaks fastened to a round object that protrudes from the other side of the cloak, as many local women do. That was the Mengel Makom. That was Mator and Shabbos. The Chol Adam, in fact, any woman may go outside wrapped and buttoned in this manner, not just those who live in Arabia or Madai. But the Chachamim mentioned women who live in those places because they were discussing the typical cases, and for some random lady in, let's say, it's in New York, to go out wearing these things, that's not so common. It's therefore they didn't make a big deal about it, but you can wear it anywhere you want. Continuing with Mishnah Zayin, Porefes al ha'evan al ha'egos al ha'matbeya. A woman may fasten the strap of her cloak over a stone, a nut, or even a coin, and may go out on Shabbos. Provided that she does not fasten the strap over the coin for the first time on Shabbos. So you can use the coin on Shabbos if it was set aside before Shabbos for that purpose. Otherwise, it's a coin. A coin is money. Money is muktzah on Shabbos unless it was designated beforehand. And it doesn't have to be just designated that Shabbos. If you had set aside this coin as a button, let's say 6 months ago, this is going to be your button from now on. That as long as you did it back then, I'm pretty sure it's good to go for all the time that follows. Back in the day, back in ancient soil, like 30 years ago, they used to have like those special coins for the phones that had the hole in the middle, which are out of date right now. So there's such a thing. I forget that thing is called, like an asimon or something like that. Those things if using that for a button, definitely not an issue because it's not in circulation anymore. Mishnah Ches, you got 3 more to go. Ches, Test, and Yud. Ches, Hakiteya Yotze B'Kav Shelo, someone whose foot was amputated, may go outside on Shabbos wearing his prosthetic leg, a prosthetic foot, because it is considered like his shoe. The Rabbi Meir, this is according to Rabbi Meir, the Rabbi Yossi answers the amputee to go outside on Shabbos with a false foot. Why? Because he considers it not considered to be a shoe, and he doesn't use it for walking, only to disguise his defect, and therefore it's considered to be a carried item. V'im yesh lo beis kibul kesusim tummy. And if the hole of a false foot has room for padding, the false foot can become tummy. It becomes tummy. Smuchos shalo tamei midrash. His supports, meaning his knee pads, can become tamei under the law of midrash because they support his weight. Tumas midrash, meaning being stepped on, states that when a zav or a zava or nida puts their weight on an object whose primary use is to support the weight of a human being, meaning like a chair or a bed, then it becomes tummy with the same level of tumma as the person himself, namely an avatuma. And when tumma translates from one to another, then the tumma of the second item is weaker than the first. In the case of midrash, however, the item receives the tumma at the same level that the thing before it was, and therefore knee pads are included in this because they are intended to support the weight of the invalid who wears them, and therefore, if he's a zav, all his knee pads become an avatuma just like him. Good to know. And he may wear them outside on Shabbos because they are like clothes. And he may wear them into the base of this courtyard because they are not shoes. You're not allowed to wear shoes in the Azara. So something that's worn at the end of one's leg is considered a shoe. Therefore, knee pads, which are worn on the knees and the shins, are not considered shoes, and they may be worn in the Azara of the Beis Hamikdash. In Heavy Amenu. Kisei Smuchos Shalot Tamei Midrash. His mobile chair and leg supports can become Tamei under the law under Tumas Midrash because they support his weight. Ein Yosim have Shabbos. He may not wear the leg supports outside of Shabbos because they might fall off and be carried. And he may not wear the leg supports into the basement of this courtyard because they are considered shoes. The wheelchair and crutches, however, are not considered shoes, and they are allowed to be used in the base of Mikdash in the Azara. So I guess that means that the base of Mikdash was ADA compliant. You have to bring a wheelchair up there. It's interesting because we have a rule that the only person that's allowed to sit in the Azara of the base of Mikdash is the Melech, and I guess in this case it's also the invalid who's in the wheelchair is also allowed to sit because he's sitting in a wheelchair, not for the same purpose, but interesting to look that out. I want to look at the Rambam later on that maybe it's something differently, but for now this is what the Mishnah says. On Katmin Tehurin, masks are always tahor. They cannot become tummy because they are not considered to be utensils. They notim behem, and the person may not wear them outside of Shabbos because they are not considered clothes. There was a big discussion about this by COVID about wearing the masks on Shabbos. That was discussed a few years ago. Mishnah Tesh. Habanim yotzim b'ksharim v'nei malachim bezugin v'chol adam. Sorry. Habanim yotzim b'ksharim. Young boys may go outside on Shabbos with laces tied to their arms. This was done to calm down a boy whose father left him for a little bit, because he was gonna start freaking out. So he would tie his shoelace around his son's arm in order to make a charm to calm him down. So therefore, that was it's compared to a kameya, which is also meant to calm down a person from a situation. Therefore, that was fine. And princes may go outside on Shabbos with decorative bells sewn onto the clothing, assuming that there are no clappers and that they're plugged up, so they cannot ring. The cholat, the fact that any person, and not just the prince, can go outside with such bells. Ela shedibru chachamim behove. But the chachamim mentioned the princes because they were discussing usual circumstances. That's like these Pandora bracelets that the girls wear with all those charms. So that wouldn't be an issue on Shabbos. Unless they're gonna take it off to show it to their friends. But especially with if they have like a bell in there, they have to take out the clapper or turn it off. And finally, Mishnah Yud, Yotzim bebeisas hachargol. The person may go outside on Shabbos wearing a chargol's egg, which cures headaches. It's one of the type of grasshoppers. It was hung from a person's ear to heal his earaches. Over Shane Shuel, or a fox's tooth, which solves sleeping problems. People who, when insomnia, they would wear the tooth of a dead fox to help them sleep. And if they were excessively sleepy, they would wear the tooth of a live fox to keep them awake. Interesting stuff. Or a nail from the gallows of one who is hanged, which reduces the swelling of wounds. But only if he wears them in order to be healed from these makas. This is according to Meir. The Chacham say, "Ach bechol aser mishum darchi amori." Wearing these times is aser even on a weekday because they're like a shtickle of Avodah Zarah as they follow the ways of the Amorim. And like going with Chukosei Lo Selechu, but according to a Meir, which is supported by the Rambam, that any medical remedy that the doctor is considered to be effective, even if they're listed here, is not included in the prohibition of Chukosei Lo Selechu. If it doesn't have a medical benefit, then it would be usher to use. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for Perek Zayin. Have a wonderful day.